Took me about 20 years to learn his name, but today we're going to be diving into my favorite top 5 Joaquin Phoenix films. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Movie Dive. Today we're going to be diving into my favorite top 5 Joaquin Phoenix movies. This weekend, he's going to be appearing in his next film, Beau is Afraid, the new Ari Aster film, which I'll be very excited to check out.
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow.
Do you ever wish that she was dead?
What?
Well, leading up to this point, he's been in a lot of good films, and I'm going to be telling you my top 5 favorite. Just a heads up, The Master's not on there because that's a movie I've never seen, so I know some of you will have that on your list, but it's not on my list. That being said, let's jump into number 5. Coming in at number 5 is 2005's Walk the Line. This movie was directed by James Mangold. It was nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards. I remember when I first saw this in theaters, I was really into it because the music of Johnny Cash was brought to life perfectly by Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It was a movie showing the whole life of Johnny Cash, of course, and it went from his young age to starting out his music career all the way to his older age when he was about to pass away. The acting, the music, the cinematography all around was incredible. This also showed the early talents of James Mangold, who's gone on to make some incredible films, including the next installment of the Indiana Jones franchise. Now, another great thing of Walk the Line is if we didn't have that movie, we wouldn't have had Walk Hard, which is one of the most underrated comedies of all time. And coming in at number 4, the 2013 Spike Jonze film, Her. And this movie is set in kind of like a futuristic, alternative type of Earth landscape. Joaquin Phoenix's character falls in love with the AI character that's played by Scarlett Johansson, who's all around, kind of like the Siri of nowadays, except if Siri was, sexier sounding. Joaquin Phoenix does play this part perfectly. The movie gives you that sense of a scary future if people fall in love with, their robots that are around. But in the end, those robots do not reciprocate those feelings, so it never ends well. And I also can't believe that Her came out 10 years ago already. And coming in at number 3, the M. Night Shyamalan 2002 Signs. Joaquin Phoenix played a character that I thought was absolutely perfect in this role. He seemed scared the whole time, but at the same time, he brought some comedy relief, including having the tinfoil on his head and playing a part that had kind of a childish fear about him. And I remember when this film came out, it terrified me. I was also 12 years old. It was a perfect time for this to come out and for me to see it. I thought the first 90% of this movie was absolute brilliance. I didn't know if the aliens were real, didn't know if it was a hoax, but when it turns out the aliens are real, it ends the terrifyingness about it. This is a spoiler, but as many of you know, a lot of them were easily killed off with simple water. And just like Walk the Line had Walk Hard, Signs had Scary Movie 3. Signs could have honestly been higher on the list if it wasn't for that god-awful ending. Swing away, swing away. And coming in at number 2, the 2019 Todd Phillips film, The Joker. This movie was one of those movies I feel like they used a superhero story as an excuse to tell a story for a haunting mental illness. I remember when they first announced this movie, I was very against it. I didn't think the Joker should have a backstory, but they made it in the sense that you still don't know the backstory after you see it. Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role that year. When he would laugh, he would have this face that he had zero happiness inside of it, but at the same time, he was laughing. It's one of those movies you can't rewatch a bunch because it is very dark and it really brings some real issues that we have going on in the world to the forefront. I'm very interested in seeing what they do with The Joker Part 2 since it does have Lady Gaga as well as being a musical. But at this point, I do trust Todd Phillips, so we'll see where that goes. Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this movie is a 10 out of 10 for me. The movie is somewhere around an 8 out of 10, and because of that, it only makes it to the number 2 spot because at number 1, the movie is a 10 out of 10. And of course, coming in at number 1, the 2000 Ridley Scott classic, The Gladiator. When this movie came out, I was 10 years old, so I was starting to get big into going to the movies all the time. I kid you not, I saw this movie, I think, 8 times in theater. That was my first introduction to Joaquin Phoenix. He had this chilling presence. He had these little lines that would tell you of all the disgusting stuff he was doing in his private time, but he was willing to go to great lengths to keep his power. And that moment when him and Russell Crowe's character, Maximus, face off in the ring for the first time, still gives you chills down your spine every time you see it. And deservedly so, this movie won a bunch of Academy Awards that year, including Best Picture. Now I keep hearing rumors they're doing like a Gladiator 2 or something. Ridley Scott's part of it. That's one of those things that I'll believe it when I see it. And it's also one of those things that I'll believe it's good when I see it. And as Gladiator stands as one of my top favorite films of all time, it is of course my number one Joaquin Phoenix film of all time. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe by clicking that button below. You can also leave a comment, good or bad. I'll enjoy it anyway. Until next time on the Next Day Movie Dive.